Will Porsche save the future of petrol engines? Welcome back to Full Throttle. Petrol engines are in a tough spot, and to save them from the massive ban that's coming in 2035, Porsche launched something. This new tech came through as a life support for everyone who loves to hear screaming noises of supercar engines. But what is it, I hear you asking? What is the new solution? Well, watch until the end to find out. Globally, governments have been fighting the gas freaks. I understand that you can offer yourself a tax credit if you purchase a zero-emission vehicle. However, a lot of nations have already opted to outright forbade the sale of ICE vehicles. And not just the massive naturally aspirated Lamborghinis and Ferraris with over 700 horsepower are in mind. I'm referring to every vehicle that has a combustion engine, even inexpensive cars, but that isn't all. Even hybrids, such as the most recent Toyota Prius. All of this began in 2017, when the UK government announced intentions to outlaw the sale of vehicles powered by petrol and diesel after 2040. But things worsened. The UK government made the decision to bring the combustion engine ban forward by 10 years to 2030. Although plug-in hybrids would no longer be allowed to be sold after 2035, automakers might continue to sell them for a few more years. You'll only be able to purchase battery electric or hydrogen fuel cell vehicles as new vehicles after that date. The European Union, Canada, and California have all chosen to forbid the sale of automobiles with internal combustion engines at the beginning of 2035. So this simply does not apply to drivers in the UK. However, there is an issue, or rather, there are a number of problems. Can you guess what they are? Well, first off, a lot of automakers were really not pleased. In general, the executives of these major automakers are a rather conservative group, and as there are a few exceptions, but this time there's only one. You know him, the richest guy on the planet. Owns multiple companies and is a workaholic? Yeah, him. And for those who still haven't guessed him, I'm now talking about Elon Musk. So if you're a Musk fan, then hit that subscribe button. Now let's get back to the topic. Other brands have to be picky about the types of cars they create and strive to make the most of every technological advancement to increase their revenue. Some well-known brands, such as Toyota, were concerned about putting all of their eggs in one electric vehicle basket, especially after spending so much money on creating vehicles with advanced hybrid propulsion systems and internal combustion engines. In fact, Toyota chairman Akio Toyoda issued a warning that the silent majority may question if having EVs as the only alternative is truly a good idea in December 2022. He also emphasized the necessity for industry to adopt a realistic approach to the target of ceasing to sell automobiles with internal combustion engines by 2035. Toyota regrets the 2035 target for electric vehicles, but it's not the only company. BMW is also speaking. It began with the i3 more than 10 years ago, and today it sells a variety of EVs, including the i4, the iX3, the new i7, and the upcoming i5. However, the company's CEO recently said that a large supply of renewable energy, a flawless public and private charging infrastructure, network, and availability of raw materials are all requirements for the pure EV world to function. And what do you think? All of those things are now lacking. Well, you might call BMW a hypocrite, but you need to agree they've got a point. Governments on the one hand seek lower CO2 emissions from personal vehicles. On the other hand, you have some of the biggest businesses in the world arguing that the wisest course of action is to not outlaw internal combustion engines. Until that point this week, it appeared as though they had reached a deadlock. The criterion was set by EU legislators before allowing automakers to sell vehicles with internal combustion engines after 2035. But only with one condition. And this condition is the one that will save the ICE world. But what is that one condition, I hear you asking? Is it the synthetic fuel that must be used to power them? But what is synthetic fuel then? What does Porsche have to do with any of this? Petroleum, which is obtained from underground and created from biological material that has been compressed over millions of years, is what is used to make petrol and diesel. Petrol and diesel are referred to as fossil fuels for this reason. Since synthetic fuels are entirely man-made, there's no need to drill wells to get them from the earth. These fuels were initially created over 100 years ago, and since then, technology has improved and developed into something called e-fuels by businesses like Porsche. The critical aspect of e-fuel is that it can assist in converting any vehicle with an internal combustion engine into a carbon-neutral vehicle. I know, you're asking, how in the world does it operate then? Well, carbon dioxide that has been trapped as factory waste or recovered from the atmosphere is used to make the e-fuels, which are then electrolyzed to create hydrogen from water using renewable energy. These two are then mixed to create methanol fuel, which can be resurrected into petrol and used without alteration in a standing internal combustion engine. In order to create racing gasoline for the 911 GT3 race cars and the Mobile 1 supercar, Porsche is actually testing this fuel using its own range of and is collaborating with ExxonMobil. This method can also be used to create synthetic diesel, which can be used to power heavy industrial machines like mining trucks or commercial vehicles. When these fuels are consumed, they all release carbon dioxide. But here's the clever part. The carbon dioxide has already been partially offset. E-fuels have the potential to be carbon neutral on a global scale because of the process of making them eliminates carbon from the atmosphere in the first place. Therefore, in order to slow down climate change, we must limit global CO2 emissions. Because it helps solve one of the main issues with EVs, charging electric automobiles, this seems like a eureka moment. Cause let's face it, the primary issue is charging. A Mercedes EQS can go 320 miles on a full charge, which is more than the majority of people will require on a daily basis. With a DC charger, you can get around 80% in around 30 minutes. It's worse if you have to charge at home because the majority of public ones are already significantly slower than that. A 22 kilowatt wall box, for instance, can charge the Mercedes EQS in around 5 hours. And what if there isn't a driveway available for charging your car? And that's where e-fuels come into play. They can be used to refuel an automobile in precisely the same length of time as conventional fuel. To be fair, e-fuels aren't entirely faultless. You can't just currently purchase them, and the plants that make e-fuels are still in the testing stage. For instance, Porsche invested around £82 million in a factory in Chile that makes synthetic fuel and cranks out 130,000 litres of e-fuel annually. Porsche will use all of this in the Mobile 1 supercar. Porsche estimates the production will rise to 55 million litres annually by 2026 and then up to 10 times that amount by 2028. Now that sounds excessive, but the US alone uses 115 billion gallons of oil annually, so it's not even quite close enough. Therefore, merely to keep the US functioning, you need approximately 9,600 plants like the one in Chile. Additionally, synthetic fuels like e-fuels are only carbon neutral if the electricity required to produce them originates from renewable, zero-emission sources. Porsche built their factory in Chile because it exemplifies a location where the wind blows for 270 days out of the year. It's powerful enough to power the wind turbines that generate the electricity needed by the factory to make hydrogen from water and combine it with carbon dioxide that has been trapped. E-fuels can be produced using solar power from solar panels or hydropower from dams instead of wind energy. Now, this may be especially intriguing for significant producers like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. What will all of these wealthy nations do if the demand for conventional fossil fuels declines globally though? Now that they can produce e-fuel using solar energy, it is feasible. After all, Saudi Arabia enjoys 340 hours of sunshine during its sunniest month, compared to the UK's 220. Now, nothing will suddenly change, and electric automobiles won't just disappear either. This new EU ruling opens the door to increasing e-fuel production in the ensuing decades, which implies that even if some of today's iconic automobiles and automakers can't afford to switch their entire production to electric vehicles by 2035, they won't necessarily go out of business, opening the door for people whose occupations or way of life are incompatible with electric automobiles and paving the path for a variety of interesting future advancements. The discussion surrounding automobiles has completely altered. Moving forward, it will just be EVs and e-fuel. So basically, ICE cars aren't going anywhere. Same as my toxic ex, who left, but never actually left. Now tell me in the comments what your opinion is about this topic. And I don't mean the topic about my ex. Nevertheless, thank you for watching to Full Throttle. Hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one.